Hello everyone. Welcome back to another video on this channel. I'm your host, Aapka Consultant, and today's video is duplicate versus reference in Power BI Desktop. The thought of creating this video, as I've seen a lot of questions coming up in the Power BI interview exams on this topic, and also this is very helpful in the PL300 certificate exams questions. So yeah, let's get started. So yeah, I've made this table of general differences between the two. As you can see, the duplicate option is also called as copy paste option. The reference is also called as the chain link option. So how it works is duplicate is basically it copies the underlying M code and it creates a new query which has no connection to the original query. So for example, if you upload any new query which can be Excel source or SQL or etc database, it creates a new when you click on duplicate. And then if you change the step in query A, query B remains completely unaffected. So, and talking about the data source impact in Power BI, it will treat as a brand new request. So when you hit refresh, it will hit your data source twice, right? So the original query is one time it will refresh, and then your duplicate query, right? So when you use the duplicate option, talking about the reference option, it treats the final output of the original query as its data source. The only step in your new query will be hashtag original query, and if you add, delete, or modify any steps in the original query, then it will automatically get applied in the difference query. We will see with the help of an example in Power BI Desktop. I just want to cover this in theory so that you understand the basic difference between the two options. And talking about the data source impact in Power BI, it balances the different dependencies efficiently. And during a data refresh, it processes the base steps and then splits the resulting data into reference branches, often saving source system performance. So as you can see on this slide, if you talk about the data performance of the reports and inefficiency, reference is a better option, but depends on the use case to use case. You have to see whether you should use duplicate or reference. In the next slide, we will cover that. So when to use which? So duplicate should be used when you are testing or sandboxing. You want to experiment with a completely different kind of transformations logic, right, on the same data set without risking or messing up your working query. So that is where you use a duplicate option. And also when you have different source parameter and you need the exact same steps but want to change initial source to a different file or database or environment, that is where you use a duplicate. So basically you use all of these steps but then you change the source. That is where duplicate is the best option. And reference is best used while building a star schema and you have a massive master table with a database and you want to break it down into fact table and dimensions table, and there is you use the reference option. And second one is staging data. You want to perform heavy initial transformations and then branch off into different aggregations. So that is where you use the reference option. So yeah, that is the basic difference between the two. I hope I was able to make you understand the basic difference between the two options. Now let's switch and see the Power BI desktop in action. So I've switched my screen and I've already uploaded a sample source which is called listings. It is in listings CSV file from Airbnb. I've got this from Kaggle. As you can see, there are a lot of columns. Let me show you. So there are a lot of columns in ID, listing, URL, scrape, ID, last scrape, source, host name, etc. So there are a lot of columns, right? This is the base query which I was talking about. In the queries pane, it comes as this. Now there are two options. Once you right click on it, you have two options of duplicate or reference. That is what I was talking about. So if you click on duplicate, it will create again duplicate this query. Let me rename it to duplicate and I will show you what I was talking about. So this is duplicate, and as you can see, the applied steps are same as the base query. So source is there, promoted headers is there, change column type is there in the duplicate one. In the base query, it is everything is same. So let's say I want to change something in the duplicate. Let's say I want to filter this. Let's say only the city scrape, right? So I've applied a step of filtered. If I go back to the listing, it is not there. So that is where duplicate options should be used if you want to do separate transformations as I was talking about. And let's say you want to rename it to source city scrape, right? So everything you can do in the duplicate, and nothing it will impact onto the base query, right? There are no applied steps here. So that is duplicate. Now let me walk you through the reference option. You again right click on the base one, click on reference. Let me rename it to reference. Yeah. Another thing in the duplicate option, let me first show you the M query of the base. So this is advanced editor. As you can see, this is the M query. Again, normal standard stuff. Source is CSV file, headers, change column type. There are so many columns, and you have to drag it. If I talk about duplicate, there are two new steps, right? Because we have applied the transformations, right? On the columns, change the name, filter it, right? So let me now cover the reference one. So in reference ones, the difference is you see the applied step. It depends on the source, right? There are no next steps as you see on the base one. There is no promoted head. There is no changed column type. So that is the main difference. Whatever you do into the source will automatically get applied here in reference as well. So for example, if I want to change the, let's say, name to capital name, right, into the source one. So if I go to duplicate, that is not changed, but if I go to reference, that is changed, right? So because it is referring to the reference query, right, the base one, it is already changed. You can see the name is capitalized. And let's say I want to, now filter previous scrape here, right? I've applied this step here. If I go back to the base one, it is not changed. So it is again the similar step, similar pattern, or I would say behavior it is following as the duplicate one. So in reference also you can do different transformations which will not impact the base query, but whatever the things you are doing in the base query, it's automatically reflected into the reference one. So that is the main difference between the two. And if you go to the view option now, if you click on query dependencies, you can see this option of how these are dependent. So for example, listings is my base query which is loaded. I loaded the Excel file. Listing duplicate is a separate file, right? And the listing reference is referring to the base one. So that is where whatever you are doing in the listing one is automatically reflected in the reference query. But in reference one, you can separately apply transformations which will not impact the listings one. And the duplicate is, I've already explained that, these is separate, and you will see everything in the applied steps in the duplicate one but not in the reference one. I hope these things clear your doubt, and you can able to answer the questions in your interviews if this thing is asked in your interview for any company. So yeah, all the best. Thank you for watching.